Richard Goyder's still the chair of Woodside.
Just. After sitting through the annual general meeting today, I'm wondering why he wants the job.
Hey now, the world's on fire. Stop now.
That's a couple of dozen Muppets sending their climate message by butchering Crowded House. And that's three Muppets sending their Burrup rock art message by yelling out the names of both Goyder's and Chief Executive Meg O'Neill's children.
They did well to get through security.
It's actually very easy to get into an AGM if all you're armed with is a bad voice or some white T-shirts, because anyone who owns just one share in the company can attend. Woodside stock is about $28 at the moment, so it wasn't an expensive form of protest. But it still failed because Richard avoided becoming the second local casualty in the climate wars. The first casualty, as in all wars, being the truth.
You can't handle the truth!
The energy debate is just lies and hypocrisy.
In what way?
Let's start with Woodside's name. A couple of years ago, it changed it from Woodside Petroleum to Woodside Energy in the hope we might think it makes more money doing this than this.
You must think I'm pretty stupid.
Goyder was punished for not lying about how Woodside makes bank.
Sucker.
Shell's website makes it look like a wind turbine manufacturer. Chevron's homepage looks like it's an employment provider specialising in diversity. It's all bullshit. The whole public debate is driven by
Lies! Lies!
Albo went to the last election talking about how renewable power was so cheap. We don't know for sure where he pulled that analysis from, but we have our suspicions.
That's what?
Took a while for someone to call bullshit.
And it was Albanese's former comrade, Greg Combet, who did it.
Hundreds of billions of dollars in investment will be needed to achieve net zero. And the fact is, neither government funding nor private capital alone can meet that challenge.
Dutton's cherry-picking his figures also.
Says constructing nuclear reactors in place of coal-fired power stations will negate the need for $1.5 trillion in transmission line upgrades, despite knowing the national grid is well overdue for maintenance and money will need to be spent regardless of the provenance of the electrons flowing through it. There are lies from commentators who exaggerate the cost of climate action but ignore the cost of inaction. Have a look at your last insurance premium hike. Seriously, those fires and floods aren't cheap.
And then there's the hypocrisy.
Australia's richest man going hysterical about an imminent crisis that no amount of Rexona can fix,
It's called lethal humidity.
whilst making millions from diesel fuel rebates at FMG.
We've all had a great ride.
Andrew Forrest demands the heads of people like Meg O'Neill on spikes, while simultaneously putting the finishing touches on a giant LNG import terminal at Port Kembla. Pat Cummins objects to an Alinta logo on his whites, but has no problem playing in a T20 tournament sponsored by Aramco, which is the world heavyweight champion of oil production. Not that you'd know it from looking at aramco.com.
Goodness me, you've got the rage.
Give me a cloud and I'll yell at it.
Who's laughing now? Shut up!
I just can't stand how sanctimonious everyone is at the moment. Vegan protesters that won't acknowledge that we can't grow crops without fertiliser and we can't make fertiliser without hydrocarbons.
You ever plow a field summer to plant the quinoa or sorghum or whatever the hell it is you eat?
Tesla drivers who don't understand that nobody on earth, nobody, has worked out how to produce lithium without using gas. Chris Bowen saying that climate change is the greatest moral imperative of our time, but refusing to even consider nuclear power? Surely, Chris, if the end of the world is truly nigh, then everything should be on the table. Nuclear, fission, the force.
You must unlearn what you have learned.
You done yet?
No. How's the hypocrisy from the TEALS, whose campaigns are bankrolled by Simon Holmes-a-Court, whose family owns one of the biggest cattle herds in Australia? Kate Cheney knows there's a lot of methane in all that bullshit, as surely as she knows that her father is the immediate past chairman of Woodside and that her family's wealth has been built on carbon. There is no scenario where we get to net zero by 2050 without gas, not one.
How dare you!
Greta can scowl all she wants, but Woodside will be a necessary evil for decades to come. We need Richard Goyder to do what he's doing.
You don't want the truth because deep down in places you don't talk about at parties. You want me on that wall. You need me on that wall.
I'm Ben Harvey.
You're going to bust a valve.